Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer Philly low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Visa Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Tanner Kern, who does great work over at DraftKings. We're going to be diving in with him about how he takes a look at this very wide open playoff race that we've got right now in both leagues. We're going to be also handicapping the games for Tuesday and just a few teams in general that he's feeling bullish/bearish on. We're going to be talking about that and so much more. And then in the final segment, gonna get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have 1 or 2 ways to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LRZM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And while I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want. With EdgeBoost, they ensure that you are able to have all gambling transactions approved 100% of the time. And over at edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Monday. Tried to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Detroit Tigers find a way to get the job done 2-1 over the Chicago White Sox as for Detroit, pretty rock-solid start here from Chris Paddock. He gives up a solo home run in 5 2/3 innings. Colson Montgomery, 10th home run season. Elvis Peguero, the opener, gives up 1 run in 1 2/3 innings. And then Tyler Alexander, 4 1/3 innings. He doesn't give up anything. Steven Wilson, along with Grant Taylor, they both under scoreless inning. Did have Brandon Eisert give up a solo home run in the 9th inning. That was given up to Spencer Torkelson, 26th home run season. That turned out to be the difference. Cam Bouger and out of the bullpen scoreless. And you had for the Tigers bullpen, Tyler Holton give you 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Kyle Finnegan, Will Vest, they're both able to lend a scoreless inning as well. The Milwaukee Brewers just remain so stinking hot. 74-44 now. They take down the Pittsburgh Pirates by a count of 7-1 and Andrew Heaney. Well, it's not been a good season for him. 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, given up in 4 innings, and he allows a pair of bombs. Going deep for Milwaukee, Christian Yelich, 22nd home run season. Bryce Durang, his 11th, and then Chase Shogert, he gives up a run over the course of 3 innings. Kyle Nicholas, a scoreless inning, and Joey Bart, he gets his 2nd home run of the campaign. That comes off of Jose Quintana. For Quintana, he gives up a solo home run in his 6 innings of work. Grant Taylor, 2 scoreless innings, and Shelby Miller, he was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. For Andrew Abbott, pretty solid start here, but the offense did not give him much around him. 4-1, the Philadelphia Phillies get the job done. Taijuan Walker allows just 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Jordan Romano, along with Orion Kirkring and David Robertson, all lend a scoreless inning as the Reds, now the top 100 team in all of baseball, 70 unders, 44 overs, and 6 pushes. Kyle Schwarber, difference maker in this one, 42nd home run in the campaign. That comes off of Tony Santillan, as Santillan allows that home run. Gave up just 1 run, but he had some inherited runners from Andrew Abbott, who went 7 2/3 innings, allowed 3 runs, and then Scott Barlow was able to end a scoreless inning as well. The New York Yankees are getting back on track, 6-2. They take down the Minnesota Twins, as for the Twins, Zebby Matthews gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings, all solo home runs, as Giancarlo Stanton gets his 11th home run season. Cody Bellinger is 21st. You had Jack Jazz Chisholm a little bit later on go deep off of Erasmo Ramirez for his 20th home run season, and Ben Rice, his 7th home run season for Erasmo Ramirez, gives up that home run over the course of 2 innings, just 1 run in total, as Brooks Kriske, he gives up 2 runs over the course of a third of an inning, and a pair of solo bombs here for the Twins off of one Mr. Will Warren. Trevor Larnach, 16th home run season. Byron Buxton is 24th, as Warren gives up those 2 solo home runs in 6 2/3 innings. Luke Weaver far outside the bullpen scoreless, and David Benner, he does not poop the Benner. He was able to give you a scoreless inning, and for the Kansas City Royals, they get the job done against the Washington Nationals. This by a count of 7-4. Cade Cavalli did not have the start that he was looking for. 4 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, including a home run to Salvador Perez. 21st home run season. Kyle Isabel, he will go deep for his 4th home run season. That comes off of Jackson Rutledge, who gives up 2 runs over the course of his inning of work. You had Clayton Beater give you a scoreless inning. Orlando Revolta, and out of the bullpen, allows a run. And then you had Mr. Shinkuski Ogasawa give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless for the Nationals, pair of home runs. Paul DeYoung, 4th home run season off of Daniel Lynch, and Bailey Falter. He did falter at the hands of Josh Bell, 15th home run season. Falter gives up 2 runs in 4 innings. Lynch, 2 runs in 2 innings. John Schreiber, Anel Zerpa, and Carlos Estevez, they're all able to turn a scoreless inning. For the St. Louis Cardinals, they find a way to persevere and get the job done against the Colorado Rockies. 3-2 the final. Chase Dollander, pretty solid start, 1 run allowed in 5 innings. Nick Anderson, Jimmy Herget both led a scoreless inning, and then Juan Mejia gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. As for Brendan Donovan, RBI double was able to be the difference maker, as St. Louis had a solid start from Miles Michaelis, 2 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. Kyle Leahy from there, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. So St. Louis does find a way to be able to persevere there, and so does the Houston Astros against Garrett Crochet and company. 7-6 to final, as for Crochet, 5 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, including a home run. Going deep for the Houston Astros, Chas McCormick, his 1st home run season, and then you had Ramon Urias get his 9th home run season. That comes off of Jordan Hicks. Frixie gives up that home run, 2 runs in total over the course of an inning. Isaiah Campbell, scoreless inning. Garrett Whitlock, 2 scoreless innings, and 4 Boston trio bombs in this one, as Roman Anthony gets a 3rd home run of the campaign. Abraham Toro is 7th, and Alex Bregman is 15th for Bregman. He goes deep off of one Christian Javier, first start of the season from, gives up 2 runs in 5 innings, so solid there. Caleb Ward, Anya de los Santos both lend a scoreless inning. Hector Neris gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning, including home run. Steven O'Kirk gives up a solo home run in his inning of work, and Bennett Sosa gets a final out of the game to be able to record a save. And for Nathan Eovaldi, he's been pretty rock solid this season, as have unders for the Texas Rangers, but this was an overwhelming game where the Rangers found a way to persevere. 7-6 a final in 10 innings, as for Arizona, you had Ryan Nelson give up 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings, including a home run, as it was home run number 16 of the campaign for Wyatt Langford. And for Texas, Nathan Eovaldi gives up 5 runs in 5 innings, including 3 bombs, as it was Blaze Alexander going deep off of 55 Shades with John Gray a little bit later on for his 3rd home run of the season, but Geraldo Perdomo is 12th home run season. Corbin Carroll, he gets his 26th home run season. And Tyler Locklear, a 2nd home run of the campaign, as you did have for Mr. John Gray, 1 run allowed in 1 inning. From there, Danny Kaloum, Sean Armstrong, Hobie Miller, Phil Matone, they all lend a scoreless inning. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, you did have 1 Mr. Andrew Hoffman get 5 outside the bullpen, but a lot of solo home run that tied the game. In the 9th, you had Kyle Bacchus give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Juan Burgos, a scoreless inning, and Andrew Selfrank gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning, as Jake Berger's RBI single was able to break the tie. Now, I do have to have this up before midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, so doing this a little bit in advance, but as of right now, it's looking like the San Diego Padres are going to be able to take it into cruise control against the San Francisco Giants, up by a count of 4-1 in the 8th inning. Yu Darvish, a very solid start, gives up a solo home run in his 6 innings of work to Rafael Devers, 23rd home run of the campaign. Logan Webb starting to regress a little bit, 4 runs allowed in 6 1/3 innings, including a home run to 1 Mr. Freddie Fermin, his 4th home run of the season. From there, Joey Lucchesi, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and for the Padres, Jeremiah Estrada came in there, held down the fort, and we shall see what happens from there. And this game is about to wrap up. Right now it's 7-4 with the LA Angels in the lead on the Dodgers with an out in the 9th inning. So they should be able to get the job done. Then again, we all know the LA Angels bullpen, not great, but they're the 2nd most over team in all of baseball with this 64 overs, 49 unders, and 6 pushes for the Angels. And Jose Soriano was very good in this one. 6 scoreless innings. From there, Luis Garcia scoreless inning. Did have Sean Anderson give up 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning, including a home run to Shohei Ohtani, 42nd home run of the campaign, and 1 to Max Muncy, 17th home run season. From there, Connor Brogdon and out of the bullpen squirrels. Kenley Jansen against his old team got the job done, and then Zach Neto, pair of bombs. He's a big reason why the Angels got it done. Goes deep off of Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 18th home run of the season, and then Alexis Diaz for his 19th. For Diaz gives up a solo home run in 1 1/3 innings. Yamamoto, 6 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. Rough start there, and then Jack Dreyer, Anthony Banda. They were both able to give you a scoreless inning, and out there in Sacramento. Doing this as we're in the 8th inning. Right now the Rays in the lead by a count of 7-4. So this is going to be another over out there in Sacramento, which, by the way, has been one of your best home over ballparks in all of baseball. Should come as no shock whatsoever. With this one for Sacramento, they're now up to 28 overs, 26 unders, and 4 pushes overall for the season. For the Rays, you had Ryan Pepio give up 4 runs in 6 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs. Shea Langeliers, Shea bangs his 24th home run season, and Tyler Soderstrom his 22nd home run season. Jeffrey Springs, though, he gives up 4 runs in 3 1/3 innings, including a home run of his own. As going deep, it was Mr. Christopher Morel, 9th home run season. Then off of Oswaldo Beto, Brandon Lau gets Loud, 23rd home run season. Junior Caminero, 33rd home run season. Beto gives up those 2 home runs in 3 2/3 innings. From there, Michael Kelly in out of the bullpen allows a run. Hogan Harris, a pair of outs out of the bullpen for himself. And right now for the Tampa Bay Rays, you've had Griffin Jacks give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. So Rays should be able to get the job done, but you never know with regards to those games. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in baseball right now, this is with a few of those late Monday results pending, but over the last 7 days in baseball, it has been a bit more of an overwhelming run. 45 overs to 39 unders. That's about 53.5% to the over, and we should be able to add 2 more overs with the Dodgers and the Angels games. And with the favorites, 56-30 on the money line, albeit you're going to get an underdog in with the LA Angels, so that takes us to 56-31, but still a pretty ridiculous run for favorites because overall for the season, only getting right around about 57.1%. 1,005 and 755 on the money line. Meanwhile, overall for the campaign, the over hitting at a rate of only about 48.2%, 820 overs to 882 unders. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do chat with our good friend Tanner Kern of DraftKings about these wild playoff races and take a look at the games that we've got for Tuesday right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VC Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Visa Family Podcast. It is always great to be joined by this man as we've got Tanner Kern aboard. He does such a tremendous job over at DraftKings. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he is hard at work taking a look at all that we're getting on a day in and day out basis, as this has been a wild last few months of baseball. Feels like it's about as open as it gets. He does a great job on this front. He's getting set for some football. He does a great job with regards to UFC and so much more. And you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at his first and last name, Tanner Kern, and then an underscore. And Tanner, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Tanner. And Tanner, how do you take a look at things this time of year in baseball? Because it just feels like it's very murky waters with regards to a lot of these teams right now. There's been a lot of ups and downs recently in baseball, and it just does feel like this is one of these years where pretty much anyone that gets into the playoffs has a chance to be able to win the World Series.
Well, Greg, it's crazy what we're seeing right now, especially with the World Series odds. The Mariners from last week to this week jumped from 14-1 to 10-1. The Tigers moved back 8-1 to 10-1. Blue Jays moving up quickly. Padres moving up really quickly as well. The Brewers as well. So just a lot of teams making movements this week in the World Series odds, and the Seattle Mariners are definitely the biggest movers so far, claiming that top spot in the American League wildcard right now, only a half game out from the Astros in the AL West.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that the American League in general is just so fascinating because it does feel like there's really nobody that's able to push away. And it feels like every single time we have a team that's looking pretty dominant, like the Detroit Tigers there for a little bit, they look like they might be that top team, but man, they have fallen on some tough times as well. And that really feels like the league where we could see almost anyone be able to make the World Series, including a team like the Texas Rangers who just did so a few years ago.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Detroit Tigers right now are a team that I really thought was going to take off. They had the pitching to do so, that they definitely have a slower second half. But we see that across baseball. Like every team gets hot at some point. Every team gets cold. Not to get off topic here, but you look at the New York Mets. That's a team that everybody thought was going to contend in the National League. Now they've lost 11 of their past 12. So teams are going to go up and down throughout the year. But right now is not the best time to get cold, obviously, as we do have a sprint to the finish. Tigers are a team, though, I still believe that can compete. But you just look at what some teams in the American League have done, like the Seattle Mariners going out, getting Naylor and Suarez. Like they are definitely the front runners right now. The Astros with all their playoff experience. There's a lot of teams right now that have built up where I think the Detroit Tigers are just kind of slowing down, and their additions just weren't that noteworthy in my mind.
Yeah, they really weren't that noteworthy, and we're going to be waiting to see what they're going to be able to do moving forward. So we have a lot of fun to be taking a look at on that front. And when it comes to the American League, we do have ourselves a lot of interesting series that are going on this weekend. I think that this is a great one between the Red Sox and the Houston Astros. It's going to be Dustin May against Spencer Arrighetti on Tuesday, with Arrighetti and the Astros about a minus 125 or so favorite. How do you take a look at this one with the pair of pitchers that, I think I'm putting it politely when I say they both have left a little bit of something to be desired?
Yeah, I'd probably be looking at the over. We don't have a line right here. I imagine it's
Thinking
gonna be
8.5.
8.5. Okay. So yeah, I'd take 8.5. I could see this one being bet up to 9. I think over is definitely the play. Dustin May, he wasn't terrible in his first start for the Red Sox. The numbers probably look worse than what it was. 6 hits in 3.2 innings, giving up 3 earned, struck out 4 though, only walked 1. There's a lot of room to get better for him. It definitely was not a great start, but again, the numbers don't do it justice. There were some positive takeaways from it. Now, I don't think Dustin May was a guy that's going to lead the Boston Red Sox to the World Series. I don't think it was the move that they really needed to make. They need to go out and get a much bigger arm guy than him. But you know what? There's talent there. Hopefully the pitching lab can fix him up for Boston. Arrighetti definitely leaving a lot to be desired so far. Only 13 innings on the mound this season. 7.43 ERA. Really hasn't found himself. I do expect Dustin May to come out and be slightly better than he was in his first start for Boston. He's not great on the road. That's my biggest fear here. But that's why I lean over. But I do like the Boston Red Sox to win this game. I think it's going to be one where they got to hit and use the bullpen, but should hopefully carry their momentum from game 1, depending on what happens there. I know we're recording right now, but with Crochet on the mound. So hopefully they can carry momentum into game 2.
Yep, and I do think that for the Boston Red Sox, this offense has really been a revelation as well, because there are just so many young guys that have stepped up as well. And I don't know if you agree with this or not, but it's felt like an addition by subtraction ever since the Rafael Devers trade, because ever since the Devers trade, the Red Sox have still been one of the best teams in all of baseball in terms of hitting. Guys like Roman Anthony and company have stepped up, and for the San Francisco Giants, it's been all sorts of chaos for them.
Yeah, the Giants have really fallen apart. And, you make the Devers trade to contend this year, but that's a trade that you're also making for the long term. I mean, San Francisco, 4 games out of that final wild card spot. I don't see much going their way in the final, months of the season here. I do think they're going to contend in the future as Devers gets more comfortable there and the team starts to come around. But I think they obviously made that trade with the intention of being in the mix this year, as they were right on the cusp of that playoff spot when they did make it. For Boston, though, they just had guys that have consistently stepped up, like Ceddanne Rafaela. Since Devers got traded, he really took on a different role on this team. He started to hit for power. I mean, he continued to make plays in the field, but by him hitting for power, it also highlighted how good his glove was because there were just more eyes on him. Carlos Narvaez, got a shout out the front office for getting him to Boston. I mean, he turned out to be a star. Abraham Toro and Romy Gonzalez, platooning first base. Both guys have been strong this season. Marcelo Meyer, before he got hurt, was good. Willier. This is a really good lineup for the Boston Red Sox, and I think it's going to be one that's going to be good for years to come now, too, especially with what they have in their farm system.
Yep, I think so as well. And with the Boston Red Sox, it feels like they are set up for the long haul, and they might be set up this year as well, because we just talked about it. Man, this feels like a very open American League this season. As Tanner Kern, who does such great work over at DraftKings, joined me on the baseball betting show. I think that this is a marquee match of the night, not necessarily because one of these teams is in the playoff hunt, because one of these teams is very far from it, the Pittsburgh Pirates, but we've got Paul Skeens on the mound for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that's always must-watch TV, going against the Milwaukee Brewers and Freddie Peralta. And with the Brewers are about a minus 125. How do you take a look at this one? Because Skeens has been absolutely amazing, and the starting pitching advantage, though Freddie Peralta has been solid, certainly goes to the Pirates. You imagine pretty much everything else goes to the Brewers. So.
Yeah, I always bet against Paul Skeens. That's kind of, unless they're going against an inferior opponent. I bet against Paul Skeens because you look at the record, 7-8, a lot of no decisions in there, and chances are he's going to be great in this game. But Freddie Peralta is also a guy who's fantastic too. 3 ERA, 1.14 WHIP, and the Pittsburgh Pirates just don't hit the ball consistently. So I don't mind going against Skeens because you typically get a really good price for good teams against him, and that's what we're getting here. So I'd be all over the Brewers. It wouldn't surprise me if the Pirates, find a way to keep this one close and potentially win it. But for the price you're getting going against Skeens, knowing that he's 7-8 and has plenty of no decisions, and if this one gets to the bullpen in a 1-score game, I do trust the Brewers more than the Pirates.
Yep, absolutely. And man, it has been such an interesting season for Paul Skeens, having a losing record despite having a sub-225 ERA. You don't find that very often, and you don't find this very often. The New York Mets are 1-10 in their last 11 games going into the day on Monday, and now you've got Clay Holmes against Spencer Strider, with the Mets being about a minus 130 or so favorite and a total of 8. How do you take a look at this game? Because the Mets, obviously overall for the season, have been the better team. The Mets have been a big fat disappointment themselves, but man, it is a rough run right now for the Mets.
Yeah, the New York Mets, I mean, they got an off day Monday, so they really need to think about what
they didn't lose a game. That's good.
They did not lose a game. You're right. And I think that the off day is exactly what they need, because they need to take a long, hard look in the mirror and say, hey, we're right on the cusp of missing the playoffs right now. They're a game and a half up in that final wild card spot. I'm not saying the back end of the National League is super competitive. I think there's some teams that can definitely contend with them. But if the Mets turn around, they're going to be a playoff team. But we've seen their playoff odds drop from like 95% to 75%, losing 11 of their past 12, not really having any answers. It's not a good time right now, especially against a Braves team that, while they haven't been good this season, we know there's still talent there. We know they can still turn it up at any time. And Spencer Strider's a guy who, the numbers this year have not been great, but he's still a legitimate pitcher. This is going to be a tough one for the New York Mets. I would probably ride the Braves here until the Mets prove to me that they're going to start playing some winning baseball. So for plus 115 with Spencer Strider on the mound, I'll gladly take it. I know the Braves are 21-37 on the road. Mets are 38-21 at home, and being home might be what they need in this spot. But I just think the Braves right now, knowing that the Mets are not playing good baseball until they start winning, I'll take the plus money going against them.
Yep, I don't blame you there. It's been a rough run of it for really both New York teams, as we're doing this before we know if the Yankees were able to get the job done or not on Monday. But how do you take a look at them? Because all of a sudden they are getting a little bit murky in terms of the playoff picture as well, and they're a team that has really been slipping.
Yeah, well, nobody's safe in the American League right now. I think because of the moves that the Seattle Mariners were able to make, they are safe. The Red Sox are not safe 2.5 games up on that final wild card spot. The Yankees definitely aren't safe being in the last wild card spot. But, the Guardians being a half game back, I don't have much fear with the Guardians. I know they've played some good baseball, 8-2 in their past 10. The Texas Rangers are a team 2.5 games back right now, that final wild card spot. They did make some additions at the deadline that were pretty noteworthy. But New York, kind of controls their own destiny here. They just need to start playing better. They have the talent to do it. But this is a team right now that's just, you're not getting consistency anywhere, right? And we've said it all along, Greg, this team is, Aaron Judge controls the vibe of the team, but there's not a lot around him there. You take away Aaron Judge, when he was out, they'd struggle, and they haven't necessarily been able to shake it. So Aaron Judge, this team kind of goes how he goes. I think on Tuesday night, I do like them to win. Carlos Rodon being on the mound, big game for them. But I just think the Yankees, they have the talent, but they need to start putting it together very soon. But because of the talent of the American League behind them, I think they're okay for a playoff spot.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that looking at the New York Yankees moving forward, they're going to be such a fascinating team. And I think that this is a really interesting matchup because the Miami Marlins have been playing some really good spoiler recently. They're on the road against the Cleveland Guardians, going up against Logan Allen, with it being Jansen Junk for them. 8.5 total with the Marlins, right around about a plus 120. I'm even seeing as high as plus 125. How do you take a look at a matchup like this and a Marlins team that all of a sudden they've been able to win some games, especially on the road?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. I mean, Miami's been able to just claw back to a near 500 record. They were 500 a little while ago, now 57-61. But 29-30 on the road for a team like Miami that nothing's really gone their way so far this season. I don't mind it here. Plus 120 with Junk on the mound there, 6-2, 3.97, 1.12 whip. Going against Logan Allen, Cleveland's been about 500 at home as well. I would take the plus money here for the Miami Marlins. They've played much better baseball in the second half of the season. They're definitely in a tough streak right now, coming off getting swept by the Braves. But the team's been okay at bouncing back. They've been okay at saving series. I know they weren't able to do it in their last one. I'll take the plus money here with Miami Marlins with Junk on the mound.
Yep, and with the Miami Marlins, they have been a very interesting team, to say the least, as they don't necessarily have a lot of power hitters outside of Kyle Stowers, but somehow, some way, they're finding a way to be able to get the job done, and they have been able to play some very good baseball here recently, and I think that this one is going to be a relatively good one, as well as we've got ourselves the Toronto Blue Jays and the Chicago Cubs. Two teams that have really been able to have nice seasons thus far, though the Cubs falling back in that NL Central race, and for Jose Barrios and the Blue Jays are about a minus 130 favorite against Ben Brown. Want to get your thoughts here, because in a normal circumstance, I'd be willing to take a shot on the Cubs, but Ben Brown has just really not been trustworthy this year.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from the Cubs in this spot. Ben Brown on the road this season, 6.29 ERA, 284 opponent batting average. Been bad at home too, 276 opponent batting average. Just not a guy that I want to trust in this spot. And the Toronto Blue Jays, just what they've been able to do this season has been phenomenal. In Canada, 38-19. They're 69-50 on the season. Jose Barrios, 3.89 ERA, 1.27 WHIP. Slightly worse numbers at home with a 4.34 ERA. But overall, he is a guy that can win here. In this Toronto Blue Jays offense, they've just consistently struck in high leverage situations. Going back to their game against the Dodgers on the 10th there on Sunday, just the home runs late. Vlad Guerrero goes deep. Clement went deep. Like, guys just continued to step up for them in a nice comeback win, being down 3-1 going into the 6th inning, get the run there, and then score 2 in the 8th to seal the deal, and then 1 in the 9th. So I like the clutchness of the Toronto Blue Jays offense here, and I think they get it done, especially going against Brown.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And is there anything else that you're going to be taking a look at in terms of the baseball card for Tuesday?
Just a lot of exciting games. I think that Arizona-Texas matchup is going to be a lot of fun with Jack Leiter on the mound. Texas needs to start moving forward and winning games. Going against Anthony DeSclafani for the Diamondbacks. Not going to be super easy there, but Texas has been really good at home. So we'd look to Texas in that spot. Also just interested in watching Texas, knowing that they are 2.5 games back right now. And then, obviously we talked about the Red Sox game. Interested in that one too. And then one more. It's Padres versus Giants, always a fun game. We got Nestor Cortez going against Robbie Ray here. Padres looked good against the Boston Red Sox, overcame some adversity in that series. But Robbie Ray is a guy who we know can pitch really well at home here. So it should be a nice game. I'm going to take the Giants in that one. I do think Ray gets the job done and the Padres slow down in that one. But those are a few of the games I'm looking at.
Yep, it's going to be a lot of fun to take a look at what we're going to be getting here in baseball on Tuesdays. We've got all 30 teams in action, and Tanner, I know you're doing such an amazing job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, so let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
So you can find me on the DraftKings Sportsbook social pages every single day, and then my podcast is Ride the Line, which is on the World Sports Network YouTube channel on Tuesdays and Fridays with Grant Mitchell, and then my personal socials are just at Tanner Kern or at Tanner Kern _ across the board.
Absolutely, and Tanner, he does such an incredible job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. So big thanks to Tanner for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
We're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Tanner Kern, who does such great work over at DraftKings, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to Tanner for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Tuesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, but if we do get things started with 901 at 902 on the betting board, the Philadelphia Phillies on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati, who's on to Brady Singer, hoping to have the Phillies sing of the blues. And Ranger Suarez is on the bump for the Phillies. Phillies are anywhere between minus 140 to minus 150 favorites, and between plus 122 to a plus 131 is that number on Cincinnati. 9 is the total. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is between even a minus 110. And for the Reds, set them at a plus 133. So we need this to inch up a penny or two, but when it's all said and done, should be able to get in on the Reds on the money line. For Ranger Suarez, he has been very good since coming off the injury list, by the way. A sub-3 ERA. He does pitch a little bit too much contact, though, and sometimes that can get you in a little bit of trouble, as overall for the season, 2.94 ERA, 8.2 strikeouts at 2.3 walks per 9 innings, closer to about a 3.12 fielding dependent. We have seen a bit of regression, giving up 3+ runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and he does have to face off against a Cincinnati Reds team that you don't necessarily have a bunch of mashers on this team. Ellie De La Cruz with his 19 home runs is right now leading the way for this unit, but You do have quite a few guys getting on base. TJ Friedel has been able to give you above a 365 on base. In fact, Gavin Lux supply about a 350 on base. You've been able to have Austin Say's kid since coming off the injury list, do a solid job. Move a line, getting on base. Neovali Marte, since coming off the injury list, is hitting about a 290 as well. So have a lot of guys who've been able to do a solid job there. Now you have Spencer Steer up to 14 home runs as well. And then for the Philadelphia Phillies, it's Kyle Schwarber and not a whole lot else. For Kyle Schwarber, 41 home runs. He's been able to supply the team with over a 350 on base. Trey Turner, he's been able to give you 26 stolen bags, hitting about a 280. And you do have quite a few guys hitting for average. Armando Sosa, Nick Castellanos, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, only between about a 262, 273 with Harper 17 home runs. He's got a good on-base percentage with over a 350 on base, but also for the Philadelphia Phillies, even though they pick up Yohan, it has been a bullpen that has been very much struggling this year. They're in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of their ERA. You do have Matt Strahm, who's been able to give you a sub-350 ERA and been able to get some solid innings out of Tanner Banks as well, but likes of Jordan Romano, David Robertson, these guys have just not been able to get the job done. And then on the other end for the Reds, it's been a relatively league average bullpen. Tony Santillan, Brent Suter, Emilio Pagan, these are guys giving you in that neighborhood about a 350 or so ERA, but I do think that Brady Singer is going to be able to give you a relatively good start as he's been able to round into a bit of better form, 3 runs or fewer allowed in 11 out of his last 14 starts, and for Mr. Singer, right now for the season, he's got a 4.53 ERA and has seen an increase with his walks, 3.6 walks per 9 innings, but has been able to round that into form as he has given up 2 walks or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, and now has 8+ punch-outs in 3 out of his last 5 as well. So could be willing to take a shot on the Reds at a plus 134 or better, and then did semi-total at 8.6. So at the 9, I'm in on the under. 9-3, 9-4 on the card. The Atlanta Braves are on the road against the New York Mets. Clay Holmes is on the bump for the Mets. Spencer Strider goes for the Bravos. 8 is the total. The over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And for the Mets, they are between minus 125 to minus 135 favorites. And anywhere between plus 108 to plus 115 is that number on Atlanta. And for the Mets, I did set them at a minus 117. So if we could get about 2 or 3 more pennies on the Atlanta Braves, I'll be in on them. It has been a really rough run for the Mets entering into Monday. Losers of 11 out of their last 12 games. And for Clay Holmes, he got off to a really nice start to the season. He has really been dipping back down to earth, though, as for Mr. Holmes, a 3.46 ERA, but a fielding dependent closer to 4.17, only getting about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been issuing about 3.5 walks per 9 as well, so you do have some concerns there. Now, if you look at earned runs, 2 or fewer allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts, but he's had a few unearned runs in there as well. For Spencer Strider, a really good swing and miss guy. He's getting over 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. That said, he has been giving up about 3.6 walks and 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. 4.04 ERA, 4.04 fielding dependent, as he has given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, but he faces off against a Mets lineup that has really been slumping, and it's a Mets lineup that is just very top-heavy because you've got a quartet of guys who have been able to give you at least 19 home runs this season. Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, and Juan Soto, with Soto give you about a 380 or so on base, but then at the bottom of the fold, the catcher spot, along with Cedric Mullins. He's been able to give you a little bit of power, but still, he's lumped into this. Mark Vientos. These guys are hitting a 230 or lower. Tyrone Taylor has been absolutely terrible as well. And for the Mets, this is a bullpen that just really isn't that strong. They did pick up Tyler Rogers and Ryan Helsley at the trade deadline, but Helsley has been a little bit inconsistent. You've got a lot of guys that have just blown games this far this season, like Ryan Stanek and company have been posting up north of 4 ERA. Edwin Diaz has been relatively solid, but he gave up some runs against the Milwaukee Brewers as well. And then on the other end, you do have an Atlanta Braves team that has been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, though Dylan Lee, Pierce Johnson, Desmond Hernandez give you a sub-3.5 ERA. Tyler Kinley has been very rough this season along with Aaron Bummer, and this is a Braves lineup that is in the bottom 10 in terms of runs per game, especially now with Austin Riley and Ronald Acuna Jr. currently on the injury list, but Marcell Ozuna continues to give you about a 350 on base, 16+ home runs out of him. Matt Olson has been able to give you over a 350 on base. He's been able to supply the team with 18 bombs, and Ozuna's actually up to 19 home runs, so I have to give him a little bit of credit. But for Michael Harris, even though he's been a little bit better recently, he's up to 12 home runs. 264 on base is rough. Ozzie Albies sitting at 222 with 9 home runs. You need a little bit more there. Nick Allen hitting at 224 with 0 home runs. You do have a lot of dead bats with regards to this lineup. So, interesting spot here. I did set my total at 8.4. I do think that both of these pitchers are going to give up some runs, so I'm in on the over. And with the Braves, I'd be willing to take their money line at a plus 118 or higher. 905, 906 on the card. The Pittsburgh Pirates are on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers. Freddie Peralta's on the bump for the Crew. Paul Skeens goes for the Buccos. 7 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 105 to a minus 115. And for the Brewers, they are between minus 120 to minus 126 favorites. Between plus 104 to plus 110 is that number on the Buccos. And I'm going to be willing to lay with the Brewers. I did set them at a minus 138. This Milwaukee Brewers team is as hot as lava, and I don't know how sustainable it is because they really don't have a lot of guys that are swinging for the fences or anything like that. For the Milwaukee Brewers, you've got Christian Yelich, who's up to 21 home runs. He's been able to supply a good on-base percentage, and then William Contreras up to 12 home runs. But with Rhys Hoskins, Jackson Chourio on the injury list, these are the only two guys that are above 10 home runs this far this season. But just a lot of consistency, 1 through 9 in the lineup, with so many guys that are able to give you at least a 337 on base, with that being Yelich, Contreras, Sal Frelick, Bryce Terang, Caleb Durbin, Isaac Collins. So you've got a lot of guys doing a solid job there. Andrew Vaughn in a 25-game sample size with the Brewers, 7 home runs and 89 at-bats and over a 400 on base. So that has been solid. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, towards the beginning part of the season, the bullpen was relatively rough, but they've been able to figure that out. After Yopai, Elvis Figueroa were big fat disappointments to begin the season, they got replaced by the likes of Nick Mears, DL Hall, Abner Uribe, Aaron Ashby, all guys giving you a sub-285 ERA. Grant Anderson has been able to give you about a 3.25 ERA. And then for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they just don't have a lot around Paul Skeens. Currently dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, as it is the middle of August, and they've got 3 guys on the roster that are right now belting out over 5 home runs this far this season. As for the Buccos, you've been able to get that out of Oneil Cruz, Brian Reynolds, and Andrew McCutchen. But for Cruz, he's hitting at 207, and there's just a lot of guys in general hitting below 225 for this team, as you've got allowed Lovar Piguero, Jared Trollo, Henry Davis, Jack Swiniski, the list goes on. And for the Pirates, they don't have a bad bullpen, but it's not necessarily amazing. They trade away David Bednar at the trade deadline, but you know what? You still have Dennis Santana, who's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Isaac Madsen has been able to give you about a 2.25. Braxton Ashcraft, as a long guy, has been relatively solid as well. So it's an interesting circumstance with a guy in Paul Skeens who's been posting up a sub-2.25 ERA. He's only giving up about a half home run per 9 innings. He's getting 9.5 strikeouts per 9. He has certainly done his part, but has a 7-8 record to show for it. And for Freddie Peralta, if you look at the advanced numbers, he is doing for a little bit of regression to his 3.03 ERA, more like a 3.85 fielding dependent. 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings is actually a career low, giving up about 3.4 walks per 9 innings. But do think that the Brewers are the deeper team and get the job done. Set them at a minus 138, so like that Brewers money line, and made my total at 6.9, so I'm in on the under. 907, 908 on the card. The Rockies are on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals, as Matthew Liberatore is on the bump for the Cardinals, and it is Kyle Freeland who's going to be going for the Rockies. Total on this game is 8.5, over and under both at minus 110, and with the Cardinals, you're going to be getting them between minus 188 to minus $2, anywhere between plus 162 to a plus 172. That is your number on Colorado, and I'm going to be willing to lay the run line here with the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, we're only seeing the initial FanDuel opener, which those are always some strange openers, to say the least. But right now, I'm getting a plus 112 on the Cardinals, and I was willing to lay a pretty hefty number here. So I'm going to be willing to lay it. As a matter of fact, I was willing to lay with regards to this run line up to a minus 118. For Matthew Liberatore, I recognize that the ERA of a 3.98 is not necessarily amazing, but he's been posting up a 3.69 fielding independent. He limits really bad mistakes, as he's been giving up only about 2.2 walks, 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. And for Kyle Freeland, he does have a fielding dependent that's darn near a point better than his ERA. He's great now, got a 5.53 ERA, gives up about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, which for that high of an ERA, that's actually not too bad. But he doesn't get a lot of swings and misses, pitches to a lot of contact, only getting about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, he only gives up about 2.3 walks per 9 innings as well, but he's been in a little bit of a rough patch. And for Kyle Freeland, unlike a lot of these Colorado Rocky starters, it's not like he's got very dramatic home and road splits. 6.52 home ERA. This does go down to a 4.75 ERA on the road, but also on the road, he's given up over 1.6 home runs per 9 innings, so that's a little bit of an issue. And for Kyle Freeland, he is backed up by a bullpen that is currently in the bottom 3 in all baseball in terms of ERA. Victor Vodnik has been able to do a relatively solid job, but past that, you just have not had a lot of guys that have been able to hold down the fort and have been able to do a very solid job for his team in general. Jaden Hill has been able to give you a few okay innings, but Zach Ognos, who recently got injured, Angel Shavili, you've got just a whole bunch of other guys. They traded away Tyler Kinley, so now they're having to rely a little bit more on a guy like Seth Halverson. All these guys posting up a north of 4.50 ERA. Ryan Rolson has been terrible, and this team is dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game on the road and on base percentage away from home. Hunter Goodman has been solid overall for the season, 22 home runs, 13 of them have come on the road, but then you just have a cavalcade of different guys. They're hitting a 220 or lower on the road. road. That includes Jordan Beck, Mickey Moniak, Ezekiel Tovar when he's been out there, Orlando Arcia. You just go down the list. So that has been an issue, or Arcia hits the injured list, but honestly, it's not been really giving you too much in general. Michael Toglia is hitting a $152 on the road as well, so you've had a lot of letdowns there. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, this is not really a power hitting team, as you've got Wilson Contreras leading the way. He's been able to supply the team with 16 home runs. He's been able to post up about a 344 on base. Alec Burleson is hitting at 280. You've got a guy in Lars Zupar who's able to give you 12 home runs, but he's only been able to hit about a 230 on base percentage. Has been a little bit better than that. Brendan Donovan, he's hitting about a 280 himself. Ivan Herrero, he's been able to give you about a 375 on base. So you do have quite a few guys that will be able to do an okay job of getting on base, but again, not a lot of power. But the bullpen, even though they trade away Ryan Elsley and Phil Matone at the deadline, they still have quite a few guys that are posting up in ERA of 3 or better. Kyle Leahy, Matt Savanson, Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien have all been pretty rock solid in this bullpen, and I do think that for Liberatore does a nice job going out there shutting down the Colorado Rockies. So circumstance where I did set my run line at a minus 118, I'm going to be willing to lay that, and did set my total 9.1, as I do think that the Cardinals get to Freeland in that bullpen, so like that over. And the run line 9-9, 9-10 on the betting board. The Slam Diego Padres are on the road against the San Francisco Giants, as Robbie Ray says hip hip hooray to another start, and you've got one Mr. Nestor Cortez on the bump for the Padres. Padres do find themselves between plus 112 to plus 122 underdogs, minus 135 to minus 137. Then over on San Francisco, 7.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and we can just get up one more penny to more like a plus 123. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Padres on the money line for Nestor Cortez. He went through quite a bit of time where he was not starting any games, as he was with the Milwaukee Brewers. Honestly looked pretty solid in his minor league rehab appearances, so that's something that is very good for this team. And in his first start with the San Diego Padres, had a little bit of a shaky go of it against the Arizona Diamondbacks. In that one, he goes 4 2/3 innings. He gives up 2 runs, but he did get himself into quite a bit of danger. But I do think that he's going to be able to find it, as that was his first start at the big league level in quite some time. You take a look at what he did last year with the Yankees, 3.77 ERA with about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and I do think that he's going to find a little bit more of that form. And for the Padres, what really helps is that even if Nestor Cortez does not find that form, they are currently number 1 in all baseball in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've got so many guys that have been able to go out there and just get the job done for this team, like Jason Adam, Adri Motohone, Jeremiah Estrada, David Morgan. These are all guys that have been able to give you a sub 275 ERA. I know that Robert Suarez is a closer, but he's blown a few games. They pick up Mason Miller as well. The big thing for the Padres is being able to get it going with regards to their lineup, as they pick up Ramon Laureano at the trade deadline along with Ryan O'Hearn, pair of guys that used to be with the Baltimore Orioles. Neither guy has necessarily done a ton for the team thus far, but both guys above 14 home runs with north of a 335 on base, so that'll help out. Xander Bogaerts since the beginning of the month of June, hitting above 300, not necessarily hitting for a lot of power, but he's been able to get on base. You've got Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., both above a 355 on base. Machado 20 home runs, 17 bombs out of Fernando Tatis Jr. as well, so these guys have been able to do a solid job on that front. And then you've got just a lot of guys in general that they do an okay job of getting on base, like Jackson Merrill hitting a 255 with a 315 on base, Jake Cronenworth a 358 on base, but this has been a Padres team that has been in the bottom 6 with regards to their overall home runs on a per at-bat basis. And then for Robbie Ray, it's been a very good renaissance season for him. He's still giving up a few walks, about 3.5 walks per 9 innings, and his strikeout numbers are down. He's only getting about 9.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. That said, a 285 ERA compared to a 369 feeling. He comes in giving up 2 runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, so that's something that you do like to see. And overall for the season, the San Francisco Giants have been one of the best bullpens in terms of ERA in all of baseball, so they're still clocking in number 2 in all of baseball, but this is not the same bullpen that it once was. Now, the good news is they picked up Jose Buto at the trade deadline. That's actually a really good long reliever for them, but now you're going to be without Tyler Rogers. Eric Miller is currently on the injured list, so you're going to be looking to someone like a Ryan Walker's right now posting up a 4 ERA. Carson Seymour has been a little bit north of a 4 ERA himself, so you do have some worry there. But that said, if I can go plus 124 or higher, going to be looking at the Padres on the money line, and did set my total at 7.7. I do think that Cortez has a little bit of shakiness, and I do think that the Padres get to raise. So looking at that over and the money line of the Padres, 9-11, 9-12 on the card. The Seattle Mariners are on the road against the Baltimore Orioles, as Dean Kramer goes for the O's. George Kirby is on the bump for Seattle, and Seattle does find themselves as a pretty good size favorite. You're going to be getting them in that neighborhood of a minus 145 to a minus 157, and between plus 128 to a plus 135. That number on Baltimore, 9 is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And with Seattle, I did make them a favorite of minus 136 on the money line. So if we can get up to like a plus 136 or so with the Orioles, I would be willing to take them on the money line. For George Kirby, throughout his career, he's always just had a few struggles when he's been on the road. For George Kirby, thus far this season, it's been a little bit of an up and down year for him, mainly because he had a few starts coming off the injured list that were so rough. He has given up a grand total of 4 runs over the course of his last 3 starts, spanning 18 total innings, so he has certainly been able to figure it out with that regard. But you take a look at George Kirby since he came into the league, his road ERA is a 3.97 compared to a 3.05 at home, and when he's on the road, he's given up over 1.25 home runs per 9 innings. That's well below 0.8 home runs per 9 innings when he is at home. And for Dean Kramer, he has been a much better pitcher when he has been at home rather than when he's been away from home. And for Kramer, it has been relatively rough recently, 3+ runs allowed in each out of his last 3 starts. That said, for Mr. Kramer, you take a look at what he's been able to do, and he's been able to put together a 2.89 home ERA. At home, he is still giving up right around about 1.3, 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. On the road, that's actually relatively the same amount of home runs per 9, but the ERA balloons up to 5.42. Now, the issue that you do have with this Orioles team is the bullpen has been oh so rough for the team. Felix Bautista being on the injured list, that certainly does not help. And then you've had these guys like Corbin Martin, Keegan Aiken, Yennier Cano just not do their part, all posting up above a 3.55 ERA. They're looking to some young guns like Grant Wolfram and company, and he has not been able to do a very good job in general for this team. And for the Baltimore Orioles, what has been a saving grace for them is that they have been hitting much, much better when they have been at home rather than when they've been away from home. As for this Orioles team, they do rank in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home. They're going to need to get a bit more out of Kobe Mayo as he's come up to the big league level and he's only hitting at 217, but you've been able to get good production out of Gunnar Anderson, Jackson Holiday, a pair of guys with 13+ home runs. Colin Cowser being on the injured list hurts his team quite a bit as he's been able to come off the injured list and he's been able to give you a little bit of something, but main guy that came off the injured list and provided was Jordan Westberg. He's up to 14 home runs, hitting about a 265, and then on the other end, you've got a Seattle Mariners team that obviously has a bunch of big dumpers like, the big dumper in Mr. Cal Raleigh, who's been able to supply 45 home runs over a 350 on base. Additionally, you pick up Eugenio Suarez. He hasn't necessarily done a ton in a Seattle Mariners uniform just yet, but he's used to being in a Seattle Mariners uniform. He was just a few seasons ago. He's up to 37 home runs, and then you've got a lot of guys that have just been able to find a way to be able to provide for the team. Like Dom Canzone is hitting at 280. He's been able to give you a bit of power recently. Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, both hitting above a 250, both above 20 home runs. Ori Polanco is hitting at 250. He's been able to supply 18+ home runs as well. So these guys have been able to do a pretty rock solid job. And for the Seattle Mariners, you do have the bullpen advantage as well, likes of Gabe Spire, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Edward Pizarro, all being able to provide a sub-3 ERA. They pick up Caleb Ferguson at the trade deadline to be able to fortify things a little bit more as well. And I do think that for the Mariners, they should be a bit of a favorite here, but I do think that Seattle going to be able to get some offense going along with the Orioles, who have been much better with their offense at home. So plus 137 or higher. Look at the O's, and on the 9, I'm in on the over. 913, 914 on the card. The Minnesota Twins are on the road against the New York Yankees. Juan Carlos Rodon is on the bump for the Yankees, and you've got old undecided going for the Minnesota Twins. So this is a game that is presently off the board. When I was doing my projections and when I was looking forward, it was showing Thomas Hatch getting the start for the Minnesota Twins. And if you do get Hatch / a bullpen game, which I pretty much deduced it as you're probably going to be getting some sort of a bullpen game here for the Minnesota Twins, as Hatch has made 2 appearances and has won 4 1/3 innings as far this season. So I made the Yankees a -232 on the money line. We'll be willing to go up to a -120 on that run line. We need at least a +233 to take a shot on the Twins, and then made a total of an 8.9, so 8.5 for less in on the over, 9 or higher to the under. Like, I'm not going to handicap too much of Thomas Hatch here just because he's pitched 5 1/3 innings. He, throughout his career, has always been very inconsistent, but he is a part of a Minnesota Twins team in general that, outside of Joe Ryan, they just don't have a lot of pitching right now, as they traded away the likes of Yohan Duran, Danny Kalum, all those good relievers that they had a season ago, and now for the Minnesota Twins, they are going to be looking at the likes of Cody Funderburk and company to try to hold down the fort for the Twins. You've had Byron Buxton be very productive at the plate with 23 home runs. Problem is, Byron Buxton is now on the injured list. They have Brooks Lee, Trevor Larnach, both hitting in that neighborhood about a 245, and a combined 26 home runs. And Royce Lewis, since coming off the injured list, he's been able to hit above a 270, but outside that, man, it's been rough. Edouard Julien, Deshaun Kersey, Mickey Gasper, a lot of these young guns, they just have not been able to come up to the big league level and have been able to give you anything whatsoever. Meanwhile, for the New York Yankees, now you've got Aaron Judge back in the fold, and The Judge has been able to be jury and executioner with a 446 on base, 37 home runs. That's a big help because you've got Trent Grisham, Jazz Chisholm, Cody Bellinger as well, all between 19 and 21 home runs this season. With Grisham, about a 350 on base. You've got Mr. Jazz Chisholm, who's starting to fade a little bit with regards to that on base, but still right around about a 330. That's where Cody Bellinger's lies. And for Paul Goldschmidt, he's looked a little bit better recently, but since the beginning of the month of June, still below a 320 on base, not necessarily giving you a lot of power. And then you've got Austin Wells, Anthony Volpe, 15 plus home runs apiece. Wells a 267 on base, Volpe a 285 on base. So you're going to need to get a little bit more out of those guys. But for the New York Yankees, even though the bullpen is not great, it's better than that of the Minnesota Twins, as you've got Luke Weaver starting to look like his old self. You've been able to have Yuri De Los Santos be a relatively good long guy as well. Pick up David Bednar along with Camilo Duvall at the trade deadline. Bednar has been the one that has been yielding the most return thus far, but Brent Hendrick, Tim Hill, both below 330 ERA. So did set the Yankees where I'm willing to lay up to a minus 120 with regards to that run line, and plus 233 or higher. I'm going to be looking at the Twins, and then in half or less, in on the over 9 or higher, the under. 9:15, 9:16 on the card. The Detroit Tigers are going to be on the road facing off against the Chicago White Sox. We do know that Captain Jack Flaherty is going to be on the bump for the Tigers, and currently it is old to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the Chicago White Sox. This is a game that is presently off the board. When I was looking on CBS Sports, who typically does the best job of projecting these starters, they were projecting Mike Facil, who's been utilized out of the bullpen all season long. I know that he made a few starts, but he's been primarily a bullpen beast, so I am taking this as a bullpen game. I set the Tigers at a minus 160. I would be looking a little bit more at the run line, which I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 105 with. For the White Sox, would need at least a plus 161 to take a shot on the money line and set a total of an 8.9, 8.5 or less, in on the over 9 or higher to the under. For Mike Facil, if you do get him, he's been able to post up a sub 3 ERA, and this is a Chicago White Sox bullpen that legitimately has not been bad. They do have Dan Altavilla currently on the injury list. That's not a place where you necessarily want to be with him, but I mean, still, for the Chicago White Sox, they are in that neighborhood of a bullpen that is in the upper half of the big leagues. They entered into Monday, actually number 10 at 376, so you've had a few guys hold down the fort, even with Jordan Leisure posting up north of 4 ERA along Grant Taylor, but it's really been the lineup that has been the issue for this team. You've got Lennon Sosa up to 13 plus home runs, along with Andrew Benintendi up to 14 bombs, and with Sosa, he's been able to about a 280, but just a lot of guys that are in a 225 or lower. Luis Robert, along with Joshua Palacios, Josh Rojas, Vinny Capra. You just go down the list, and you're not getting much there. Michael A. Taylor has been a disaster for this team, and then on the other end, you've got a Detroit Tigers team that they've had a little bit of a tough time hitting ever since the All-Star break, but you do now have Kerry Carpenter back to the fold. He is really one of the main pieces for the team. 21 home runs, hitting about a 270, and just up and down the boulevard, whole bunch of guys hitting about a 262, 270, with it being Carpenter, Javi Baez, Cole Keith, Dylan Dingler, Wencio Perez, all these guys doing a relatively solid job there. And then you've got Riley Green supplying 27 bombs. He's been able to give you about a 270 average. Spencer Torkelson, a 330 on base. He's up to 25 home runs as well. Gleyber Torres, Zach McKinstry, they're both doing a solid job finding way on base as well. So do like what I'm seeing there. And with this Detroit Tigers bullpen, I've not loved what I've seen out of their bullpen, as they're in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of ERA since the beginning of the month of June. But you do have a pair of guys who've been able to be relatively reliable with a sub 3 ERA in Brant Herter along with Will Vest. Then you do have the guys that have been letting you down, like Chase Lee, Tyler Holton, especially Tommy Canley, posting up all above a 4 ERA. But that said, I do think that the Tigers should be able to go out there, dominate this game, even with Jack Flaherty having his issues as far this season. As for Flaherty, he's got a 4.56 ERA, but he's still getting 11 punch-outs per 9 innings. Big issue for him has been giving up the deep ball. He's been giving up over 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. He is posting up a little bit over 3 walks per 9 innings as well. Just been up, down, all around for him, as he's given up 300 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts, but his last start against the Minnesota Twins gave up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned to a gutted lineup. So interesting spot here, 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher, the under, and willing to go up to a minus 105 with the Tigers run line, plus 161 or higher, looking at the White Sox, 9:17, 9:18 on the card. You've got the Red Sox on the road against the Houston Astros. Spencer Arrighetti, Mom Spaghetti, is on the bump for Houston, and Dustin May goes for Boston. 8.5 is the total, over is minus 115, the under is minus 105 for the Houston Astros. Between minus 119 and minus 126 is that number, plus 104 to plus 113 is that number on Boston, and I'm going to be willing to lay with the Astros. I did set them on the money line at a minus 122 for Spencer Arrighetti. Just has not been out there very long in general this season, as this is going to be, I believe now, start number 4 from. He's posted up a grody 7.43 ERA, still getting strikeouts, well over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that's something that's very encouraging. But Dustin May has not been very encouraging himself. 4.93 ERA, 1.3 home runs, 3.7 walks allowed per 9 innings. Both of these guys are backed up by really good bullpens, though. As for the Boston Red Sox, you've been able to have Greg Weiser, Justin Slayton, Garrett Whitlock, obviously Aroldis Chapman. These guys come in, hold down the fort, be able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. They've been able to do a nice job mixing and matching. Brendan Bernardino has been relatively rock solid, as well as for the Boston Red Sox, entered in this series number 5 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Astros are number 3, though, as you've got Bennett Sosa, Stephen Okert, along with the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Josh Hader, all providing a sub 3.25 ERA. They're number 3 in terms of their bullpen ERA at a 3.30, and actually number 1 in the American League. And for the Astros, they do now get Jeremy Pena back off the injured list. He's been well above a 300. Jose Altuve is looking like the Jose Altuve of old. The deep ball is back for him, as he's been able to supply 21 home runs, hitting about a 285. You've had Carlos Correa come in, and he's been able to give you average. He's up to only 9 home runs this season, so you're going to need to get a little bit more pop there, but still has been able to move the line, find a way on base. And then you've got Christian Walker, Yenny Diaz, pair of guys that are giving you less than a 305 on base, but 16 home runs apiece. And then on the other end, for the Boston Red Sox, you've had Roman Athlete do a nice job getting on base, over a 380 on base. Trevor Story doesn't necessarily give you great on base, but he, Jarren Duran, Weiler Abreu, Abraham Toro, all in between about a 250 to 264. Abreu's up to 21 bombs. Trevor Story has been able to give you 18 home runs. So John Rafael, a 260 average, 14 home runs. And then Carlos Narvaez, who they've been hitting at the 9 hole, he's still been able to do a nice job getting on base as well. So I do think that you're going to get plenty of run scoring. The Red Sox, top 6 team in terms of runs per game. So I did set my total 9.1. I like the over. And for the Astros, we'll lay up to a minus 122 on that money line. 919, 920 on the card. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road against the Athletics, says Jacob Lopez is on the bump for the A's and the Buzz. Shane Baz is on the bump for the Rays. 9.5 is the total. Over is minus 120. The under is even. On the Athletics, it's between minus 113 to minus 120 on them. And between even money and plus 105 is what you're going to be finding on Tampa Bay. And pretty much anything of even money or better, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Tampa Bay Rays, as I did set them here at a minus 101. I have this as pretty much darn near a pick'em game. And for Shane Baz, he has had a rough season thus far. He's posting up an ERA that is right around about a 4.92. He's given up at least 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, and in 13 of his last 18 starts, he has given up at least 3 runs, but goes up against a pitcher in Jacob Lopez that, even though he's got a lot of swing and miss stuff, 10.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, he's allowing 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, and he's been giving up about 3.5 walks per 9 innings. And the kicker here is that you've got by far the better bullpen with the Tampa Bay Rays rather than the Athletics, as for the Athletics, it's been all sorts of rough with regards to this bullpen. You've got a lot of guys that have just gone out there and have not been able to do their job, to say the least, as now you've got Mason Miller out, so that's not great. Tyler Ferguson, Hogan Harris, Osvaldo Bido, a lot of guys that are posting up over a 4.50 ERA, though Sean Newcomb has been relatively solid as a long guy for this team. And then for the Tampa Bay Rays, even though Manuel Rodriguez is on the injured list, you still have so many guys have gone out there, held down the fort, like Eric Orze, Pete Fairbanks, Garrett Clevenger. These guys are all giving you a sub-3 ERA. And then for the Tampa Bay Rays, this lineup has been much better ever since you've gotten back Brandon Lau, as he's able to get very loud, as he's been able to supply the team with 22 home runs, hitting about a 270. Yandy Diaz, he's hitting about a 275. He's up to 20 bombs. Junior Caminero has been able to give you 32 home runs. The catcher spot has been a little bit rough for this team, but you've got a lot of base stealing going on as well. Taylor Walls, Jake Magnum, Chandler Simpson, all with at least 14 stolen bases, and Jim Simpson has been able to give you 32 stolen bases, and he's hitting a 290. And on the other end for the Athletics, you've got a very rock solid top end of the lineup. The bottom end has been a little bit less than tremendous, with the likes of Max Muncy, no, not the right Max Muncy, Max Schulman, guys like this have not been able to come through. But how about getting a quartet of guys to be able to give you over 20 home runs? Shea Langolier, Shea Bangs, Nick Kurtz, Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, they've all been there, and all these guys are hitting at least a 260 as well, so they've been able to do a nice job finding a way to move the line, get on base. Jacob Olsen being on the injured list has been a little bit rough, and you could use Lawrence Butler to hit above a 231, but still has been able to do a nice job in terms of swiping some bags as well. But again, this is an Athletics team that just doesn't have a lot of bullpen pitching, and I do think that for the Tampa Bay Rays, that'll be the key in what I think is going to be a high-scoring game. I set my total at a 10.3. I like the over, and for the Rays, pretty much pick them or better. Going to be willing to take them on the money line. 921, 922 on the card. The Marlins are on the road against the Cleveland Guardians, as Logan Allen goes for Cleveland. Jansen Junk hopes to not live up to his name for Miami, and Miami does find themselves anywhere between plus 118 to a plus 127, minus 140 to minus 144 is that number on Cleveland. 8.5 to 9 is the total on the 9. Under is minus 120, and the over is even, and on the 8.5, the over is minus 125. Under is plus 105, and I did set a total of an 8.4, so I'm going to be in on the under for Jansen Junk. He certainly has not been living up to his name because he has been quite rock solid in the way that he's only given up 1 walk and 0.4 home runs per 9 innings, though he's currently posting up an ERA that is a 3.97. His fielding independent is more around about a 2.67. He's been able to do a nice job of really not beating himself. Has given up 3+ runs in each out of his last 4 starts, but he does go up against a Cleveland Guardians team that's currently in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, and it's just very much a top-heavy lineup when it comes to Cleveland, as you've had Jose Ramirez pound out 23 home runs, 365 on base. Kyle Manzardo's been much better recently as well, hitting for about a 325 on base. He's up to 20 bombs. Stephen Kwan has been hit about a 280, but that said, you've had the likes of David Fry, Nolan Jones, Jonathan Rodriguez, John Kensey Noel, Bo Naylor, a whole bunch of guys hitting at 215 or lower. This is a bullpen for the Cleveland Guardians that's currently without its closer and Emmanuel Clase, so they've been looking a lot more to Nick Enright and Eric Sabrowski, who have been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Got Cade Smith, who's been able to supply a sub-3 as well, but Hunter Gaddis has been a little bit over the place. Matt Fessa has had himself a very rough season as well, and for the other end, you've got yourself a Miami Marlins bullpen that since the beginning of the month of June, they've been a top 8 team with regards to their bullpen ERA, as you've had a lot of these guys that have really come out of nowhere and been able to shine, as you've got the likes of Anthony Bender, Lake Bakar, even Tyler Phillips, Cade Gibson, these guys all being able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Valentin Beloso has not necessarily been that great, and what else has not been amazing has been the Marlins in terms of generating the deep ball, but I mean, this is a top 6 team in terms of runs per game away from home with over 4.7 runs per contest, and you've got a lot of guys that are moving the line, including Kyle Stowers, your main power hitter, 25 home runs, give you about a 365 on base, and then Xavier Edwards at the top is giving you a 365 on base. You've had Augustin Ramirez, found out 17 home runs. The middle of the lineup has a lot of guys hitting between about a 237 to a 240. Javier Sonja, Ramirez, who I mentioned before, Dane Myers, Connor Norby, all sort of in that fold, but I do think that for Miami, they get a relatively good start. Jansen Junk against a guy in Logan Webb who's only getting 6.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving out over 3 walks per 9, as his ERA is not necessarily too bad, as he's been posting up an ERA that's hovering in that neighborhood about a 3.96, but more like a 4.42 fielding dependent, has given up a little bit less of the deep ball, but do think that the Marlins go out there, get the job done here. I was willing to take anything of a plus 117 or higher, so we're going to be looking at the Miami Marlins on the money line, and with regards to the total, and on the underside, I tell it at 8.4. 923, 924 on the card. The Chicago Cubs are going to be on the road against the Toronto Blue Jays. Jose Barrios is on the bump for the Jays, and you've got Mr. Ben Brown going for the Cubs. 9 is the total, under is minus 115, the over is minus 105, and for the Blue Jays are between minus 120 to minus 132 favorites, and we're in that neighborhood of plus 108 to a plus 113, that number on the Chicago Cubs, and I did set the Cubs as an underdog of plus 133, so I'm going to be willing to lay the minus 130 or so with regards to the Blue Jays, as Jose Barrios has been able to do a better job actually on the road rather than at home. For his career, he typically gives you about 0.9 points better with his ERA at home rather than on the road, but he's had a little bit of a reverse split this season. Comes in having given up at least 4 runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, so that's been a little bit less than savory. 3.89 ERA compared to a 4.43 fielding independent, 7.5 strikeouts to 3 walks per 9 innings, but he does get to go up against a Cubs team that's been a little bit up and down recently, and for Ben Brown, it's just been a very rough season for him in general. Mr. Brown is right now supplying a 6.04 ERA. Fielding independent is much better than that at a 4.12 as he's able to get strikeouts, 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the deep ball has really been hurting him. He's been giving up about 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. He goes up against a Blue Jays lineup that has been one of the best in all of baseball at being able to generate offense at home. 5.25 runs per game. That is number 2. And for this Blue Jays unit, you've had George Springer being out of the fold due to the concussion injured list, but you've got Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr., both being a bit above a 285. Both of these guys up to 14 plus home runs. Edison Barger has been rock solid. He's been able to now pound out 18 home runs. He's up to hitting about a 270, and for Guerrero, nearly a 400 on base out of him. Don't call his name. Alejandro Kirk is hitting about a 295 as well. So you've got a lot of guys that are finding a way on base, and this is a Blue Jays bullpen that has been pretty rock solid as well. You've got the Killer Bees and Braden Fisher and Brandon Little, coupled with Uriel Rodriguez, all give you a sub 3.25 ERA. It's been a little bit up and down for Jeff Hoffman thus far this season, posting up about a 4.50 ERA, and Chad Green has not been great to say the least, but whenever you've had Nick Sandlin and Tommy Nance out there, both of these guys have been able to do a rock solid job. Sandlin unfortunately lands back on the injured list, and it looks like his season might be done, but for the Blue Jays, I do think that they're going to be able to do a solid job against the Cubs lineup that does find themselves in the top 3 in all baseball in terms of runs per game. Just have so many guys that are able to find find a way to move the line, get on base. Even though he doesn't give you a lot of power, Nico Horner has been able to about a 290, 27 home runs apiece out of Seiya Suzuki, Pete Armstrong, though. These guys have been slowing down a little bit, both hitting between about a 250 to a 260. You've had Michael Busch supply 22 home runs with a 350 on base. Carson Kelly is up to about a 360 on base. You've been able to get good production out of Ian Happ with regards to Depot with 16 home runs. Dansby Swanson is up to 18 home runs, so it's a very fearsome lineup. I did set my total here at an 8.6, as I do believe that Barrios is going to be able to get out of his funk, and I think that Ben Brown is doing for some positivity as well, so like the under, and with the Blue Jays pulling away up to a -132 on that money line. 925, 926 on the card. The Kansas City Royals are going to be playing us to the Washington Nationals. Mitchell Parker is on the bump for the Nats, and you've got Michael Wacha, and if he has a bad performance, it turns into the dying Pac-Man voice of Michael Waka 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 Waka. Going for the Royals, and the Royals do find themselves anywhere between -165 to -176, +143 to a +154. That number on Washington with a total of 8.5. The over is -120, and the under is even. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the Royals at initial FanDuel opener is a +114, and I'd be willing to take a shot there. Was willing to take a shot at a +110 or better for Michael Wacha. He's been able to do a nice job of just being able to keep things out in front of him and not committing the stupid mistakes. As for Mr. Michael Wacha, he's got a 3.36 ERA thus far this season, 367 fielding dependent. Not going to blow you away, as he's only getting about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's also only giving up about 2.5 walks per 9 innings, so I've been loving what I've been seeing there. And he goes up against a guy, Mitchell Parker, that has been able to not give up a lot of hard contact, but he's not getting a lot of strikeouts, and he's not necessarily locating his pitches well. 3.4 walks and 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, so giving up 1.2 bombs per 9, a 5.43 ERA compared to a 4.68 fielding dependent, but he's now giving up 4+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, and is backed up by a bullpen that is dead sinking last in terms of ERA, north of a 4.75, actually a 5.75 ERA for the Washington Nationals, as you've had so many guys just not get the job done for this team, especially with Kyle Finnegan and Andrew Chafin now traded away. So you're looking at guys like Jackson Rutledge, Orlando Revolta, Jose Ferrer, Shunkuzi Ogasawa, all these guys, they're giving you above a 4.75 ERA now for the Washington Nationals, averaging about 4.7 runs per game away from home. That is a top 10 mark in all baseball. James Wood has been able to give you good wood, 25 bombs, hitting for about 360 on base. Has been rough since the All-Star break, but you've got CJ Abrams hitting for about a 270 with 15 home runs. Nathaniel Lowe and Josh Bell, 14 to 15 home runs apiece. For Bell, he's been hitting much better recently. Since beginning of the month of July, hitting above a 275. Lowe is still hitting at 216, though, so that's relatively low. And then the young guys like a Brady House, Dallin Lyle, along with, as well, Robert Hessel. These guys have been hitting about a 242, 250, not supplying a lot of pop, but they're finding a way on base. And then on the other end for the Kansas City Royals, this has been a dead last team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home. They're only averaging about 3.2 runs per game when they are at home, but that said, you've been able to get some relatively good production out of a trio of guys in Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, and Vinny Pasquantino, as Perez and Pasquantino, 20 home runs apiece, both hitting between about a 246 to a 260. Bobby Witt Jr., 30 stolen bases, 340 on base, 17 home runs, and Miguel Garcia is hitting at 300 as well. They bring in Mikey Yastrzemski at the trade deadline. He's been able to fortify things a little bit. Randall Grichuk has been able to give you a bit of something, but you need the young guys to step up. Nick Lofton, John Rave out there in the outfield, both hitting at 200 with no power. Jack Aglione's on the injured list, and that is not a bad thing for this team. And then with regards to the bullpen, it has been pretty sturdy, as they've got Daniel Lynch off the injured list. He's been able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA, and then you've been able to get good production out of Lucas Arceg, Carlos Estevez, both being able to give you a sub-3 ERA. So circumstance where I did set the Royals at a +110 on the run line, currently seeing that at +114. Going to be willing to take a shot there. And I did set my total here at an 8.8, currently seeing an 8.5 out there. I do think that the Royals actually get to Mitchell Parker here, so I'm going to be in on the over. 927, 928 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks are on the road against the Walker, Texas Rangers. Jack Leiter is on the bump for the Rangers. Anthony DeSclafani goes for Arizona. Arizona is a underdog between +128 to a +133. -145 to a -157 is that number on Texas. 9 is the total. Under is -120, and the over is even. And I did set the Rangers at a -149 on the money line. Again, we go to the initial FanDuel opener with the run line. That's a +146, and I'm going to be willing to take that. I set mine at a +132. And for Jack Leiter, I do recognize that the command has not necessarily been amazing for him. He has been giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings, but he's been able to do a nice job in terms of being able to hold the ball in the yard, giving up a home run per 9 innings. With his 4.05 ERA, it's more like a 4.33 fielding dependent, and recognize that he hasn't gone deep into starts. He has won less than 5 innings in each out of his last 2, but each out of his last 3 starts, 3 earned runs or fewer allowed in every one of them, so that's a very big positive. And for DeSclafani, he's used to being a starter because he was that for the San Francisco Giants for the longest time, spent some time with the Cincinnati Reds for many, many years as well. Right now, he's getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but with his 4.20 ERA, more like a 5.24 fielding dependent, giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, albeit it's a small sample size of 10 appearances and 30 total innings, but not necessarily encouraging there. He's given up 4 runs across 6 2/3 innings in his last 2 starts, so not necessarily effective there, and he is backed up by an Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen that's currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of ERA. They trade away Shelby Miller, has pretty much been the best bullpen piece for the team all season long. Now you've got a whole bunch of guys that are registering an ERA that is north of a 3.75, as you've got that with John Curtis with 2 S's, Ryan Thompson, Kyle Bacchus, Juan Murillo, a whole bunch of guys that have not been amazing. Now for the Arizona Diamondbacks, still a top 8 team in terms of runs per game, despite the fact that you've got no more Josh Naylor or Eugenio Suarez, as Geraldo Perdomo supplying about a 385 on base. Corbin Carroll, he's been able to give you a home run in 3 out of his last 5 games. He's up to 25 bombs, hitting a 250. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte. His home run power has been down over the last 30 or so games, but he's still giving you a 392 on base. He's been able to move the line. Alec Thomas is hitting about a 250, so these guys have been able to do a nice job with that regard. But I do think that for the Rangers, their bullpen is really going to be able to help you elevate, and that's going to be able to help you catch this run line, because the Rangers have been a top 5 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. We've got so many guys who have been able to step up for this bullpen, as Cole Winn, Sean Armstrong, Phil Matono, they picked up at the trade deadline. Hobie Milner, you've got a lot of guys that are posting up a sub-325 ERA, Robert Garcia being another one of them. And for the Texas Rangers, since the beginning of the month of July, this has been a unit that has been able to slug out over 4.9 runs per game. You've got a lot of guys that, if you look at the season-long numbers, they've been pretty pedestrian, as you've got Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Wyatt Langford, Jake Berger, lying between about a 226 to 238. All these guys have given you a double-figure amount of homers, with Garcia, Langford, Semien between 13 and 16 home runs, but they've been much better recently. Corey Seager, over the last 45 days, over a 400 on base. He's up to 17 home runs this season. And Kyle Higashioka, since the beginning of the month of July, hitting above a 325. So, circumstance where I did set the money line price at a minus 149, but I'm going to be looking at the run line here with the Rangers, and set my total at 8.6. So, here at the 9, I'm in on the under, and we wrap things up with 929, 930 on the card. The LA Dodgers are on the road against the LA Angels. In the bottle for Los Angeles, it is the Dodgers, a minus 160 to a minus 176 favorite, plus 144 to a plus 150, that number on the Halos, and 9 is the total. The under is minus 115, over is minus 105. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Dodgers, once again, FanDuel opener, right now find that at a minus 108, and I'm willing to go up to a minus 127, set the money line at a minus 199. I just do not trust in Tyler Anderson whatsoever. Guy's been getting lucky for years. He's also going up against his former team as well, so they know this guy relatively well. For Anderson, giving up a lot of hard contact, 463 ERA, but a 551 fielding dependent with 1.9 home runs, 3.5 walks allowed per 9 innings. He's only getting about 7 punch-outs per 9, while Emmett Sheehan on the flip side, 9.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3 ERA, but has given up just 0.5 home runs per 9 innings. He's backed up by a bullpen that has been fortified a little bit more with Brock and Roll Stewart coming in. They also get off the injured list, a guy that I really like in Blake Trine. They've got Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott right now dealing with injury, but Alex Vesia, Jack Dreyer, they've been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. And for the LA Dodgers, this continues to be a lineup that's right there towards the top of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Really had their issues when Max Muncy was out, but getting back Max Muncy, who's been able to do a nice job, giving you over a 390 on base with 16 home runs and 270 or so at bats. That's massive. Andy Paz, 19 home runs. He's hitting for about a 280. Shohei Ohtani, 390 on base, 41 home runs. Teoscar Hernandez, 18 home runs. You just have so much firepower with this team. Now, Michael Conforto has really had a miserable year, and you have Tommy Edman landing on the injury list, but Tommy Edman hasn't been having a good year either, so, I mean, it's not like that's necessarily too amazing. And for the LA Angels, it's an all-or-nothing team. This team has been in the top 6 with regards to home runs on a per-at-bat basis, bottom 7 with regards to on-base percentage, and you've been able to get a lot of power out of Taylor Ward, 27 home runs, about a 312 on base. Joe Adell setting fire to the rain with his 25 bombs, but Joe Adell's also hitting at 230. And then Logan O'Hoppe, Mike Trout, along with Jorge Soler, owing a 238 or lower. Soler is right now dealing with injury, 12 home runs, but at 293 on base. Mike Trout, 362 on base with 20 home runs, but again, hitting at 238. Logan O'Hoppe, 18 home runs, 275 on base. That's an issue. What's a bigger issue is this LA Angels bullpen. It's currently in the bottom 4 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. They have to put Hunter Strickland on the injured list. Now, you do have Brock and Rolberg, Kenley Jansen, both give you a sub-325 ERA, but then you got a lot of guys like Sam Bachman, Ryan Zefrian, Connor Brogdon, Jose Fermin, all posting up above a 460 ERA. So, circumstance where I did set the Angels at a plus 199. I would need at least plus $2 to be able to take a shot there. there, so we went Dodgers run line. I did set my total at a 9.3 because I think that Sheehan holds down the fort, so here on the 9.5, I'm in on the under, and that'll wrap things up for the Tuesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Tanner Kern of DraftKings for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline, and other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. That means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.